The main objective of international humanitarian law is to establish minimum standards of restraint that apply in all situations of armed conflict. The Geneva Conventions and their additional protocols, the Hague Convention, and various other treaties, as well as customary international law, are the primary sources of IHL. While the first Geneva Convention safeguards injured and ill soldiers on land, and the second convention protects military personnel who are shipwrecked at sea, the third convention addresses the treatment of prisoners, and the fourth convention covers civilians, including those who are in occupied territory. Following the four conventions, additional protocols were adopted in 1977 and 2005. Additional Protocol 1 pertains to safeguarding individuals affected by international armed conflict, whereas Protocol 2 addresses non-international armed conflict. Then in 2005, additional protocol was adopted to create an additional emblem, the red crystal alongside the Red Cross and the Red Crescent, to guarantee the protection of medical and religious personnel as well as equipment during combat. Now let's discuss the fundamental principles of IHL. First, we have the principle of distinction. This principle, set out in Article 48 and 52 of Additional Protocol 1, mandates that parties to a conflict must distinguish between combatant and non-combatant, as well as between military objectives and civilian objects. Next is the principle of proportionality. Codified in Article 51 of Additional Protocol 1 and rooted in customary international law, this principle asserts that attack must not cause excessive incidental civilian harm in relation to the anticipated concrete and direct military advantage. The aim here is to balance military necessity against humanitarian considerations, ensuring that civilian harm is minimized. The third principle is the principle of necessity. Grounded in customary international law and reflected in the Hague Regulation and Geneva Conventions, this principle stipulates that the use of force must be limited to what is necessary to achieve a legitimate military objective. Its purpose is to prevent the use of excessive force and limit unnecessary destruction, ensuring that military actions are strictly related to achieving strategic goals. The fourth principle is the principle of humanity. This principle mandates that parties to a conflict must avoid causing unnecessary suffering and superfluous injury. Its aim is to protect the dignity and well-being of all individuals affected by conflict, ensuring that the conduct of war does not result in inhuman treatment. Finally, we have the principle of non-discrimination. This principle is enshrined in Article 3 of the First Geneva Convention and Article 9 of Additional Protocol 1. It dictates that IHL must be applied without adverse distinction based on race, nationality, religion, gender, or any other similar criteria. The goal is to ensure equal protection and respect for all individuals affected by armed conflict, upholding the core humanitarian ethos of IHL. These fundamental principles of IHL, distinction, proportionality, necessity, humanity, and non-discrimination, form the backbone of the law of war. They guide the conduct of hostility, aiming to limit the horrors of war and protect human dignity even in the midst of conflict.